Hello, this is Dale. I'm joined by Mike, and we're going to be talking today about the Tuesday general discussion where Cherryl Walker brought up some details about someone that we all know and trust, and that would be Chief Hoke at the IV Fire Department. He's the chief of the IV Fire Department, and you can see over my shoulder here is a video from the past where the commissioners were talking about changing the fire code without talking with the fire chiefs.
And what's that on your computer on the other side there, Dale?
That's Fire Chief magazine. I never go to bed without reading it, and so this is.
Yeah, me either. Yeah.
You're going to wait for the movie?
Who misses that?
Right, right. So we're going to play now. Why is this clip so long? This clip is so long. It's 9 minutes. Relax. This is for free. The reason it's so long is that this is the entire context from beginning to end of what Cherryl Walker brought up about emergency services at today's meeting, where, yes, we're first to get it there with you, for you. It was this morning, and we want you to see everything that she was talking about and how upset that she is. Watch her face while she says this. And at the end of the 9 minutes, we'll come back and we'll talk about it briefly, but we'll try not to say anything during the actual clip so you can see the entire thing. Go ahead, Mike.
Emergency services. We wrote our recommendation in regards to the closest available air ambulance, and which is in line with the standing orders in the county, the protocols. Lang Johnson, in cooperation with some of the other chiefs, I understood because I met with the chief over the city. What's his name? Not coming to me right now. I met with him, Landis.
Oh,
yes, Bill Landis, and they were going to have the 911 board, which Lang Johnson was taking the lead on that, to come up with the guidelines from 911 because they have their own 911 board. And I said, okay. Well, I got in my email their recommendation, and their recommendation is that the first call would be the closest. However, they were going to allow any jurisdiction to pretty much opt out. And I said, not acceptable. Now, I've not notified him of this, but when I read that, I said, you can be kidding me. You can't let anybody opt out, because then everybody's going to say, well, I want to call who I want to, which that is that they're capitulating to Chief Hoke, because that's what he wants to do. He just wants to call who he wants. So I spent several hours online.
You have the authority to do that. If a patient
well, he went to his board.
No, I know, but if a patient specifically asks for somebody, he has the authority to overrule that request, or the doctor, because you were mentioning the doctor has the ability.
They're supposed to go by the county protocols for EMS. They're supposed to.
Well, in addition to that, somebody needs to acquiesce to the medical.
Well, the
supervisor of the medical.
The state has set this up to where the counties have their EMS boards. The counties require that all of these agencies and departments have a physician advisor that writes those protocols, that tells them how they're going to do all this.
Which has been done.
Which has been done. And Chief Hoke out here, like, you know, the lone Indian chief or whatever is trying to do out there, is telling his board that Mercy is the one he wants. So he got his board to pass some kind of a resolution. However, that is totally contrary to EMS protocols everywhere. I have spent hours online, I spent most of the night doing this actually, researching other states, other jurisdictions, districts, municipalities. There are some who have conglomerated all of it, like in the metro areas where they have like 9 ambulance services and 3 helicopter services. They have aggregated into a single EMS protocol system, which like in Multnomah County. And I could not find one. I've checked New Hampshire, I've checked Arizona, Colorado, Washington, anyway, like 6 different places, some cities. I went looking everywhere. There's not a single one that ever allows a field personnel, paramedic or a field personnel, determine what that air service is going to be. I could find 0. And I even copied off some of the stuff, and Ben has 2 air ambulance services within Deschutes County. They have 2. And they don't even let the field personnel determine. When a call is made, the call is made from the field, and 911 determines who's going to be called. And so I copied off their question and answer thing from Ben. And so as the situation stands, my husband's out of town this week, so he hasn't, reviewed, or I think he's read it, but he's gone right now. He'll be back Friday. And so in us looking at this, where we have one individual wanting to do his own thing out here, and yet that's not the standard of care, even in the state he came from, Denver, they don't do it either. They don't let the field personnel decide. It's decided at 911 who's called. And so that paragraph that Lang has put in there about letting the jurisdiction decide because they have to allocate their own resources and blah, 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 that's got to go. That's not in keeping with standards of practice throughout the United States, and certainly isn't in the best interest of patients, where someone on the ground is saying, call such and such company. So anyway, we'll probably be dealing with that. I don't, 911 is their own board. However, 911 doesn't have a physician advisor, and they're supposed to have a physician advisor that is writing their protocols. And so I don't know if that's why they're a ship without a rudder, because it seems like Lang is doing some things, and Landis is doing some things, and Kristen is doing some other, and Hamilton in the middle, and I don't know what's happening there. I can't seem to get any direction as to who to go to. One says go to Hamilton, and one says go to Landis, and one says Lang is doing it, and I can't get Kristen to, it wasn't me, but legal couldn't get Kristen to return a phone call. So we don't know what's happening with the 911 board.
Okay. Yeah, the medical director for the different fire districts, ambulances, I don't know how you get around that. I mean,
you can't.
So I'm not sure.
And I will just say this: if they continue to insist on trying to do that, they will not have a medical director, because the medical director's license is the one that's
and that's the thing. Yeah, because it's his license.
It's their license. Yeah. They don't function unless they have a medical license.
Right. And
he's doing it red. So they're taking advantage, trying to go off and have their own, for lack of a better word, their own little empire as to how they want to run things. You can't do that in an EMS system. That's why the federal government mandated EMS systems to be administered by the state.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have that very thing happening.
So you're in the process of resolving this conundrum.
I'm working on it. The other thing is that I've had reports of Mercy still sending ground ambulances over here picking up patients, and that is continuing to be a violation of our ASA. The letter that we received back from the state said that, unless they were violating the ASA, so they are. So do you want me to have legal draft a letter or something else on that again to the state?
Conversation for executive session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ending litigation.
I mean, we need to make some kind of response, yes, no, or indifferent. But I mean, whether that would be best in executive session.
We need substantial evidence. It can't be,
anecdotal stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that they won't give me information. They just say but what they do say is we're going to continue to call Mercy. They verbally have said that we're going to continue to call Mercy. So with that statement and with the anecdotes that are coming back to me, it should be up to the state to investigate it. So we'll take
at the end of the day, our motivations for looking at it after the best interest of and the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Josephine County. And under the current situation, we only have this much authority.
Right.
And so we need to exercise that authority if it's not compliant with the best interest of patient care. But at the same time, I think it would be really helpful to maybe have a letter drafted from the medical advisor, the EMS, or AMR, that oversight element, to say, we're aware of this, we recommend, because it really comes back to what medical doctors.
I think he has done that. He has that letter has been drafted or reminder somewhere, because that was part of the one that I just read yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty. I don't know how in the world you get sponge room out of that. I'm not sure, but again, I think that would probably be best as far as what we're going to do would be for executive sessions. You want to check with them and okay.
I'll do that.
So
Okay.
apparently the chief is causing Cherryl to lose sleep because she's up all night studying to see what the proper regulations are on this stuff.
She spent hours online looking and even found out what state Chief Hoke comes from and looked up that and found that, the guy is out of control and he's doing these things without any regard for the physicians and what they want. I guess he can overrule physicians according to Cherryl, and it's one of those, the guy is building an empire. What's up with that? So it occurs to me that probably a good idea, now that she has said these things about the chief in an open public meeting, is to let the chief weigh in on this. Chief, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So right here on our show live is Chief Hoke from IV. Chief, you got a chance to listen to this. Did you know that you were? Are you aware of the fact that she says that you're building an empire out there?
This is the first I'd actually heard of it when I listened to your playback.
Yes, sir.
She has failed to contact me or even have any discussion in regards to that.
So, what do you think about some of the details that you're hearing here? That you are that you and the 911 board are just out of control.
Well, unlike the county commissioner, I think I'm going to take the high road, and I don't believe in a personal attack. The county commissioner's record stands all on its own. They don't need any assistance from me showing what they're all about. The bottom line for us is our concern for our patients. We've had multiple meetings with Commissioner Walker and with Dr. Marty Hill, who's the EMS medical director, is also her husband. And what I find interesting is on January 12th of this year, she stated that this has been nearly her full-time job since October of doing nothing but trying to resolve issues so Oregon Lifeguard could operate in business in Josephine County. And there's been a lot of interesting things that have occurred in getting their operation up and running. And this isn't an issue for me about Oregon Lifeguard. It is an issue about Mercy. The people that want to find out the information can do their own research. Just go on to NTS website and look at the safety record of the parent company for Oregon Lifeguard, and look at the safety record for Mercy. That being aside, there's the issue of the subscription service. The majority of the people that are out here have subscriptions to Mercy flights. And contrary to what the Oregon Lifeguard CEO says, Oregon Lifeguard cannot honor a Mercy subscription. It's against the law. The Inspector General and the U.S. Attorney General have both published decisions that they cannot do that. It violates the anti-kickback law. So there's that issue. So if I put a patient into an Oregon Lifeguard helicopter that has a subscription with Mercy, that patient may incur a bill literally in the tens of thousands of dollars. I personally have an issue with that. My issue from day one about this is that there has been 55 flights out of Josephine County in 2014. About 20 to 25 of those flights occur in the Illinois Valley, so roughly about half of them. It's not enough to sustain 2 air services. It's not really enough to sustain 1. My fear is that Mercy will quickly go out of business And an Oregon Lifeguard, being a for-profit company, their shareholders are going to figure out that they're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month having a helicopter sitting in Merlin and not going anywhere, and they're going to pull out. So then where does that leave Josephine County 3 years from now when we have no service? I mean, those are the real facts, and that's always been from day one. I have brought that up. The issue of the subscription service and what's the long term when both companies cannot survive. And then we have nothing. We absolutely need air medical transport in the Illinois Valley. There's no question about that. But one of the things that has been going on is they keep talking about patient care, but they never fail to tell the people in the meetings is that before a patient is ever put into a helicopter, they are under the care of a paramedic, and the paramedic makes the decision on whether that patient should fly, whether the patient is stable enough to fly. They may only be able to go by ground ambulance because it is very difficult, almost impossible, to do CPR in a helicopter. That's why we don't load those types of patients into a helicopter. The majority of the flights that come out of the Illinois Valley and actually out of the system is patients who are having what's called a escalation MI. They need to go to a cath lab. The cath lab happens to be in Medford. There's not a cath lab that does cardiac catheterizations in Grants Pass. So that's why we have the majority of our flights that occur out here. Those patients are relatively stable before we put them into a helicopter, and they fly quickly over to Medford so they can go to a cath lab and they can restore circulation to the heart. And we had a meeting with Dr. Hill and all the fire chiefs back on, I believe it was December 16th. And Dr. Hill stated that meeting, that the flight time between both flight services are negligible. The fact is that both aircraft fly at approximately 130 knots to Jubilee Park. From Merlin to Jubilee Park is 27 air miles. From Jubilee Park to Medford is 42 air miles. So that difference really equates to about 5 minutes. That's what this whole issue has been really dealing with, is about 5 minutes. And I just find it ironic that, again, misinformation is coming out. And here's a really good example. While Cherryl Walker is absolutely 100% correct, Mercy has sent ambulances into this ASA, the ambulance service area, and picked up patients at Three Rivers Hospital and takes them. What she's not telling people is that they're taking the patient to their fixed wing aircraft. Every system I've worked in, and I've been a paramedic for a long time and been an EMS for close to 40 years, whenever a patient is being flown, they always bring the flight crew to the patient so that the flight crew, which is at a higher level of care, there's usually specialized nurses and specialized flight paramedics, and I am a flight paramedic. They bring the crew to the facility, the discharging facility, so that they can be briefed by the caregivers, specifically the physician, on what the condition is with the patient. So that way when that patient is flown, they know what to expect, because medicine at altitude is different than medicine on the ground. And so they're bringing the flight crew to the patient to provide a higher level of care. Instead of trying to chastise Mercy for doing that, they need to change the ASA to allow for the right level of patient care, so that the flight crew can actually be brought into Three Rivers Hospital and have that continuum of care all the way to Portland or wherever they happen to be flying the patient to. And I think that's really important. They talked about in that little brief there about the 911 board. I personally have met with the 911 board president, and his concern, the same as mine, is that the 911 board doesn't have the authority. What I find interesting is that if they would have checked, the 911 board does have a medical director. That must be Dr. Albright. He's also a medical director for Oregon Lifeguard.
Now, they said, sir, that she said that she checked with a number of other states and etc., and that the big problem was that there's nobody that's doing or trying to do what you're trying to do. What do you say to that?
I haven't done the research. My position has been what's right for the patient. We fundamentally agree, and if she would have called, she would have found out that we've already instructed our staff to ask the patient what they want. And really, isn't that what it boils down to? instead of directing and getting involved in this, put out a policy. There's 2 services in town. I mean, what if there were 2 hospitals in Grants Pass? You want to go to Hospital A or Hospital B? It used to be that way here. And a patient has a choice. What they're doing right now is they are trying to direct that Oregon Lifeguard will be the primary. We've never once said that we will not use Oregon Lifeguard. What we said is that our primary service has been Mercy.
I would think a patient would be interested in that additional 5 minutes.
And the patient, as what the protocol that Dr. Hill wrote, it specifically says that the patient has to be informed that there may be a delay of 5 minutes or whatever time that is to bring in that helicopter.
Mike, switch back to your video, would you please, your live video. Chief, one of the things that was said more than once in this conversation was that it looked as if, to Commissioner Walker, it looked as if you were trying to override the patients, override the doctors. Even Commissioner Hare said that. What's your response, sir?
We're not trying to override the doctor, and he put the first policy out. They didn't have any facts. I'm on the county EMS board. We tried to obtain information from both Mercy and from Oregon Lifeguard on specific flight time criteria, and we got very good data from Mercy. As I tried to explain to Commissioner Walker, a helicopter does not take off and fly and land at 130 knots. You have your time up to cruise speed, descent speed, and then landing. And that is the data we got from Mercy. Oregon Lifeguard straight-lined it. They said that their 407 aircraft flies at 133 knots, I believe, and it's going to take them from the time they lift off to the time they land, it's this time. Well, that's incorrect data. You don't start your car going 55 miles an hour. You build up to 55 miles. There's all these things. So in order to compare apples to apples, we were trying to get the same data from them. And that's been kind of the challenge that we've been dealing with from the very beginning, is trying to get the actual data. Oregon Lifeguard says they will honor Mercy's subscription, and that would be great if they did. Problem is, it's illegal. And who's the one that's going to pay at the end of the day? And it's going to be the patient.
It sounded as if they were saying you were pushing your 911, the 911 board, you were pushing them into doing this, that you were exerting influence on your 911 board to get them to do this.
It's not, first off, it's not my 911 board, it's Josephine County 911 board. I have no representation. I met with the board, the 911 board president, Jim Polk, and before we even started, he made it very clear, this is not our authority. This is not our decision. You call for a helicopter, we're going to send you a helicopter. We should not be in the decision matrix. I mean, he made that very clear. That was long before I ever got involved in it. That was his opinion. We told Commissioner Walker from the very beginning that the BCC did not have the authority to regulate the air ambulances. And they come under the Airline Deregulation Act, which I kind of disagree with, because they're not really an airline. I mean, yeah, they fly, they get paid, but they're not United. They're not Delta Airlines. They're a very different type of service. But that's the federal law, and that's the law we deal with. So you go to the state, you have a helicopter, you show through the state EMS division that you have a certain amount of equipment. They say, go ahead, you can fly. State doesn't look at any other issue other than they have to make sure that they have the qualified people and they have the right equipment. Oregon Lifeguard absolutely meets those criteria. Can't argue that.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I said, but the residents that have called me have made it very clear that they want to have Mercy, and so the simple solution for us is, well, ask the patient, what do you want? Would you like Mercy, or do you want Oregon Lifeguard? And let them decide.
Yes, sir.
Which is exactly what the protocol says that I have holding in my hand.
And this is probably not a question for the chief or Dale, but why is it that Cherryl or anybody on that board is insistent that things be done the way they want them done, as opposed to the choice of the patient and what might be best for them. I wonder what's the angle there.
Well, let me give you an example, and it's somewhat of how this whole process has gone. Initially, Oregon Lifeguard came to town. They attempted to court Three Rivers Hospital, so to speak. They wanted to do inter-facility transports between Three Rivers and Medford by helicopter. AMR, and I'm not speaking for AMR, I'm just speaking for the meetings I've sat in and what I was told. So this is first-hand information, but I'm not AMR corporate. But AMR then looked at Oregon Lifeguard as a direct competitor and said, we're not going to support AMR or Oregon Lifeguard. If somebody was trying to come in and take my business, I would have some issues with that. Oregon Lifeguard went to AMR corporate, and AMR had to change their policy. Oregon Lifeguard went to the state legislator, Carl Wilson, to get some influence on Josephine County because they felt they were being hit with stumbling blocks and roadblocks. And so they involved the state legislature. When Oregon Lifeguard first came to town, and they met with the Rogue Valley Fire Chiefs, of which I'm the president of the Rogue Valley Fire Chiefs, we told them up front, these are the steps that you need to take in order to make this happen. You need to talk to Josephine County 911 Board. You need to talk to the Jackson County 911 Dispatch Center, which is ECSO. You need to apply for permission to be on the frequencies, the radio frequencies of the agencies you intend to respond to. On a Tuesday, when they went in service here about 45 days ago, they said, we're here, you're going to use us. They never once bothered to get permission to be on the radio frequencies. We had no ability to even land them. They never provided any training to any of the agencies until we forced them to provide some training. And to date, we tried to set up training with them here in the Illinois Valley. They came out and showed us a PowerPoint presentation, but because of whether they couldn't bring the aircraft in, they've never offered to come back. And so I've got people, because we have to help load the patient, that are going into aircraft that we're not familiar with. So for me, there's a huge safety issue. We work with Mercy. We know how to load the aircraft because it takes 4 people. They're flying with 2. And so I'm putting my people at risk, loading them into a helicopter we're not familiar with. Mercy's flying a 105. Oregon Lifeguard is flying a Bell 407. One loads in the back, one loads in the side. Very different loading procedures.
Have you had these conversations with Cherryl Walker?
Absolutely.
You have?
All the fire chiefs have.
And then I'm a little perplexed here at I mean, this just sounds like a logical argument stuff that you're making here. How come none of that seems to be finding fertile soil behind her eyeballs?
I can't answer that. I do not know what the motivation is between Commissioner Walker and the medical director. I don't know. As I said before, had she bothered to call, she would have found out that we've already tentatively agreed that we're just going to ask the patient. To me, that's just the easiest solution. Patient wants Oregon Lifeguard, send them out. They want Mercy, send them out.
Sir, one of the things that we do is we try to talk about the news that's not generally out there and to inform people about what's happening. This meeting just happened today, and I was alarmed that we had a county commissioner, more than one, that was saying denigrating things about you personally, even though you decided to take the higher road. What about the Daily Courier? I mean, the Daily Courier wrote some article, laudatory article, oh, how wonderful it is we have in this new services. But did they talk with you about what the effect of this would be and ask you about what the residents of the Illinois Valley want?
In some context, yes. They have discussed with me, and I've made some quotes. Some of them they've elected to publish and not to publish. And as it's always been my experience with the media, they're going to do whatever it is that sells papers for them. So I mean, and it's kind of my same thought about Commissioner Walker. If she wants to make a personal attack on me, fine. I mean, yes, we do have an empire, and that's kind of my response back to her, is that, you know, we are a special district, and I informed her of this in a previous email. We don't report to the county. We are a special district, and I report to my board of directors. I've already briefed my board president today that the meeting that occurred with Commissioner Walker, and I've got his full support. I've got members of my board who are Mercy subscribers, and they have made it very clear to me that if they have an event that requires a helicopter, that I better call Mercy. That's their choice. That would be my choice if it's myself or my family. And you know, as I said before, there are three compelling issues to me in this whole thing, and it deals with the subscription service. And to me, that's very important, because I would hate to stick somebody with a very large bill. It deals with the safety record of both companies, and those reports are readily available on NTSB, and anybody can research those the same way that we did. And it deals with the long-term viability and the scenario that could be played out here. I mean, they have made no bones about what could potentially happen if a service goes out of business.
So now it's your contention, essentially, that they don't have the authority to force you to use any particular service. Is that true?
They can't. If we had to make the choice, and that's what I've been saying from the very beginning when they started with this, because AMR corporate come down and said, because it should be the first medic that's on scene, or the lead medic should make the call on who to use, or whether they need a helicopter or not, or what service to use. AMR said, no, we're not going to be in that business, because this has been such a political firestorm. They issue policy to their staff that if a helicopter is to be called, you just request a helicopter, let the fire department decide who's going to call. I keep saying that if it's a medical decision, it should be made by the senior medical person on scene. Shouldn't be the fire department. You know, we stand by, we provide services for the helicopter, we help load the patient. It is truly a medical decision. And so it gets back to ask, which one do you want? To me, that just makes so much more sense.
I agree. I would much rather have it be my decision as opposed to, some board on high somewhere that is going to make the decision for me regardless of its impact on my health.
But it sounds, Mike, as if AMR has gotten involved in this and said they don't want to make those calls, and then it's up to the chief and the fire department. Is that right, Chief? And we've been saying, well, I've been saying from day one, that if it's a medical decision, it should be made by the senior medical person. Take the fire department out of the equation. I'm okay with that. But yeah, because of AMR corporate policy and the fact they're dealing with a quasi-competitor, you'd really have to speak to AMR on what their logic is behind that. That's when everybody started getting involved in this, and so we, in the absence of any policy and a lot of verbal direction, our board did pass a resolution that the primary air transport service for the Illinois Valley Fire District would be Mercy. If Mercy's not available, we would absolutely use Oregon Lifeguard. I put Oregon Lifeguard on standby the other day for a call when Mercy was not available. We do not. It's not that we don't want to use them. Chief, as often happens here on our show, we're going to use this while you're still on the line. We're going to use this section here to talk about you behind your back. Okay?
Okay.
So yeah. Mike.
You know what? There is a turf battle going on here, but there does seem to be only one party that's concerned about the turf. It seems as though the chief here is perfectly willing to let other people make these decisions based on prudence, and that seems to be the right way to go if you're asking me. I think personally, this is very good information. I believe that the citizens ought to see this, hear about it, and make their voices heard about what they think the you know, the way this should come down. I personally want to be able to make the choice. I want the guy, I trust the guy who shows up to help me when I'm having a heart attack, to make the right decision, and I don't want him to be tied by bureaucracy.
But Chief Hoke has always been straight with us. He's always been a fellow that would tell us the truth about any of these things. He's a good guy. I don't like seeing my county commissioners jumping all over somebody without actually doing the homework for it, saying these things about him personally in a county commissioners meeting, denigrating him, accusing him of literally putting people at their lives at risk without doing any of the due diligence, any of the research they needs to do. If anyone were to believe county commissioners, first of all, why would you do that? But if you were going to believe county commissioners, then you might think that there's something wrong with Chief Hoke. It doesn't sound like it once he's gotten an opportunity to explain why these things are happening. I don't want to see Cherryl Walker especially jumping all over this guy. It's not right.
Yeah, I'm what the chief says sounds like logic to me, and what I heard Cherryl talking about in that video was that here is what the federal government says we have to do, and we have to abide by this. And you know, I have to make a judgment call based on what I saw or heard in these two situations, and I come down on the side of let the chief, let the you know, the paramedic showing up at my house, let them make the choices. Let me make the choice also, you know. And if you come down on her way of doing it, everybody below them doesn't have a choice, and that just seems doesn't seem right. Maybe I'm getting it wrong, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Chief, do you have anything final that you'd like to, anything that you'd like us all to know, sir?
Oh, just contrary to what Commissioner Walker believes, we've always got the residents that I am sworn to serve is always our first concern. We practice that on a daily basis, and every member of my staff understands and knows how important that is to me. We provide exceptional care. We've picked up a number of programs that the county has floundered on, and trying to do the right thing just for our citizens, so that we're prepared for any events that we run into. And it's unfortunate that politics has gotten involved. I really can't even address why Commissioner Walker stated that she's worked on this particular project for the last 4 months, when there are critical needs for this county, such as reduced law enforcement. The fact that we run out of ambulances multiple times a day, and we have no ambulances to transport anybody. That's happening multiple times a day, versus spending 4 months on roughly 55 flights a year. Seems to me that something is upside down in the priorities of what the BCC should be working on.
It's not the first time that we've seen that, sir.